If you want talk, games, and fun all rolled into one, well, you've come to the right place. This is The Game Show, where host Bradley Clarke and his special guests talk about the world of television game and competition shows. But Bradley's guests aren't here to just talk. They came to play a game as well. What will today's topic be? What game does Bradley have planned? There's only one way to find out.
It's time to start the show.
You heard the man. Welcome to The Game Show. And here's your host, the Bradster himself, Bradley Clarke.
I hear it at the start of every episode, but that introduction always brings a smile to my face. Thank you so much, Austin Angelo, and welcome everybody to another exciting episode of The Game Show, the talk show, all about the world of television game and competition shows. I'm Bradley Clarke, the Bradster, and today I have the incredible opportunity to speak with yet another game show producer whose work I have admired for many years. Over the course of his career, my special guest has been the executive producer on many types of game shows within the genre, including love-based shows.
When one of these brides tells her husband that she's in the mood, there's a good chance she's not. Which one is it? Well, her husband's gonna find out, and so are you, because it's time to play the Newlywed Game. Thank you. Hi, I'm Gary Kroeger, and welcome to the Newlywed Game. You're gonna meet three brand new newlywed couples, and you'll discover how well they know each other. It's very simple. I ask them questions about each other, their relationship. Every correct answer earns them points. The couple with the most points will win a second honeymoon.
From Hollywood, the dating capital of the world, it's the dating game. And now, the star of our show, Chuck Woolery.
Thank you, Kramer. Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much. Nice to have you here. Welcome to the dating game.
Survey-based shows.
Today on Family Feud, from Edmond, Oklahoma, they win more often than the Los Angeles Dodgers, as if that was saying much. Meet the Rogers family! From Los Angeles, California, these folk can be as sweet as sugar or as nasty as a spitball. Meet the Control family! You're about to see these two teams battle it out for $10,000 in cash, because it's time to play the Family Feud! Now, here's the star of our show, Louie Anderson!
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Let's play America Says. Here's your host, John Michael Higgins.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you, ladies. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to America Says. That's the show that's all about guessing how America filled in the blanks, as you know. And in this game, the superfans will be competing against football moms for a chance to win $15,000. Did you hear that, Donna?
I heard it, Michael.
$15,000. $15,000. I'll say that again.
Trivia shows.
4 strangers. One goal, to win a head-to-head competition for the chance at $100,000. One wrong answer could be their last. This is Russian Roulette. From Santa Monica, California, marble and granite specialist Josh Latzer. From Clinton, Mississippi, singer Maria Lay. From Los Angeles, California, elementary school teacher Lalo Quezada. From Napa Valley, California, second grade teacher Elizabeth Bennett. And now, here's our host, Mark L. Wahlberg.
Thank you. Welcome to Russian Roulette. As you know, correct answers win you money and keep you in the game. However, if you blow it and get the answer wrong, you lose all of your winnings, and you have to play Russian Roulette by pulling that little lever you see in front of you there.
Hi, I'm Carrie Annie Nava, and I'm standing here with Marty Yu, who's an amateur chef. He's hoping to cook up a mouth-watering $50,000 against today's mom. Does he have the right ingredients? We'll find out on 1 versus 100.
When you put comedic mastermind Ricky Gervais
Thanks for coming, kids.
in a room with 5 little kids.
Are you married?
Sort of. I've had the same girlfriend for over 30 years.
Why didn't you propose to her?
A lot of laughs and complete chaos.
Don't give me a hard time.
Snap out of it.
What happened to me that I'm here now being shouted at?
I'll call my lawyer.
You're like a James Bond villain.
But this isn't your average playdate. I'm ready. Let's go, baby! Someone could win some serious cash. 1 contestant and 10 questions, worth up to $200,000. Get them all right? Yeah. That money is all theirs. Get any wrong?
Don't know. I'm such an idiot.
These questions are getting harder. And their fate in the game, come on, kids, falls on the kids to answer the same question correctly.
Does anyone know?
He lived during the Victorian era, which started the Industrial Revolution.
Yes! The kid said what? But sure did. I never would have known that.
I gotta keep it real. I agree with her.
This is worse than the Golden Globes.
Not funny.
I resign.
Welcome to Child Support. Hello, I'm Fred Savage, and welcome to the only game show where players can be saved by a group of little kids on every single question.
4 complete strangers have a shot at winning a ton of cash by answering questions as a team. But ultimately, they're playing for themselves. In the end, they'll face the toughest decision of all: who gets the biggest share of the money. This is Divided.
And word association shows.
Today on 25 Words or Less, you know her from the Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, the Fast and the Furious franchise's lowest grossing movie. It's Amber Stevens-West. And joining Amber, a married couple, Jonathan and Tricia. How does he look so youthful after so many years in the business? Simple. His medical license lets him do his own Botox. It's Matt Eisman. And joining him are our returning champions, boyfriends, David and Nolan. And now here's your host, no stranger to the Botox needle, it's Meredith Vieira.
I'm leaving. That's it. I'm done.
Yes, he's worked on shows featuring kids and kids at heart, shows where contestants drop sexual innuendos and where contestants drop through holes in the floor, and shows where contestants might win big if they speak up or speak less. I'm certainly a big fan of many of the shows he's produced, pun intended, so here to talk all about them with me is my special guest, game show executive producer, Michael Canter! Michael, welcome to the game show!
Thank you, Bradley. It's a pleasure to be here.
It is such a pleasure to have you on the show, and I would have done the introduction using just 25 words or less, but I figured I'd use some extra words so I can highlight more of the shows that make up your game show career.
Fantastic.
And speaking of those shows, we are going to take a trip down memory lane and journey through your game show producing career. And then later on, for the game of the day, Michael, you're going to have the opportunity to do a little role reversal and go from producer to player by competing in a game that features your name in the credits.
Okay, good. As long as it doesn't involve spelling, I've got a shot.
Don't worry, there is definitely no spelling involved.
Fantastic.
So Michael, are you ready to talk about game shows with me?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Excellent. So I always like to start off by asking my guests, when did your love for game shows first begin? And growing up, what were some of the game shows that you enjoyed watching?
I remember coming home from school and running to turn on Password every day. Loved that show. I think that really kind of ignited it. And then I watched them all. I remember, obviously, Family Feud and Hollywood Squares. I think shows that made me play along and think and also laugh. That was like the winning combination for me growing up.
And did you always want to work in the TV industry and specifically the game show genre?
I kind of fell into it. I started out as a writer and I was writing TV scripts and movie scripts and selling them, doing okay. And then there was a Writers Guild strike. And at that time, a friend of mine offered me a job, quote unquote, writing on a sexy new game show they were starting called Studs. There was a lot of innuendo and stuff. And I would write funny lines. And I'm like, this is the greatest. And it so happened after a season, and the show took off, it was a big hit, but after the season, the executive producer left, and the people at the network offered me the show to run, and I did, and it was a good fit, and I've been doing that ever since.
I've actually had the pleasure of having the host of Studs, Mark DiCarlo, as a guest on the game show.
Oh, he is one of the greatest. We're still very good friends.
So you went from working on one love-based game show, Studs, to another in the form of the Newlywed Game, and specifically the 1996 to 1997 syndicated version hosted by Gary Kroeger. You were the executive producer of this version of the show, which featured a brand new format consisting of 4 different games being played throughout each episode. So were you involved with creating the new format, or were you brought on as the executive producer once the new format had been established?
Oh, no, I was developing that. I helped create that new format, testing new games to try to bring a new version and a fresher version of the Newlywed Game. And we were thrilled when we got picked up. So, yeah, I was there from the very, very beginning.
The 1990s saw a major decline in the game show industry, as there weren't many game shows being produced at the time. So were you hopeful that bringing back a classic format like the Newlywed Game, but updating it so it felt fresh and new, might help the game show industry get back on the incline?
I would love to say that we were going to start a whole new revolution in game shows. I was just thrilled to be working in this field that I have so much fun doing. The first thing you got to do when you're working on a game show is do a lot of prototyping and testing, and it's such a fun process. Every new game show that I've been handed to develop, it's like a puzzle, and you just sit there and spend hours trying to unlock it, and how can you make it the best it can be? So I remember having a great time on Newlywed Game, and I think that was my biggest thing was, can we crack this puzzle?
I know that 2 previous versions of the show were titled The All-New Newlywed Game and The New Newlywed Game, but did you ever consider calling your version The All-New Newlywed Game or The New Newlywed Game so that viewers would differentiate it from the original version of the show and to highlight that the game consisted of a brand new format?
I think they tried to market it that way. I don't know if they changed the title, but Sony, I think, did try to market it that way. We were released in companion with a brand new version of the dating game that I think was sort of prescient. I think in that version of the dating game, hosted by a guy named Brad Sherwood, they were slowly revealing body parts of the potential daters. So both shows were brand new from scratch, and they rolled us out at the same time. So I think that they were trying to market it as new takes on an old favorite.
Prior to your incarnation, the last version of the Newlywed Game, which was hosted by Paul Rodriguez, reduced the number of couples per episode from 4 to 3. Brad fact! So was that the reason why your version of the Newlywed Game only featured 3 couples per episode? Or did you figure the new scoring format didn't lend itself to 4 couples, since it would be too much to keep track of for the viewers?
My guess, because this was a long time ago, my guess is by reducing it from 4 to 3, you're able to spend more time with each couple. Each game took a while because we had, I think, 4 new games in that format. So we wanted to spend time and get to know these people a little bit more. And each game was designed to sort of peel the onion. So my guess is by having fewer couples, you get to spend more time with them and get to root for them in a better way, particularly in that format where we had video roll-ins where they were completing each other's pre-taped sentences and stuff. It would have been a lot to do. It would have been a harder show to produce with a quarter more people. The other thing I remember being very difficult about that version of the show was that, you know, on the classic version, they don't know what's coming, right? They take them off stage, they come back, they write out the answers. In this one, we had to keep each couple separate. We had curtains, and the husbands had to be on one side and the wives on the other. And it was a very difficult process to keep everybody separate because we were exposing them to the material before each taping. We would literally have to huddle up before each show, go over all the material, craft it quickly in about 10 minutes, and then up we go and tape it. So that was really, really challenging, keeping everybody separate and having to create these shows moments before we went on.
It's a simple game from the viewer's perspective, but a lot actually goes into crafting a final game show product.
I think the best games are. The best games should look so simple that you don't have to think about it. You could just watch and enjoy it. But there's always a lot that goes on behind the scenes.
For the second season, Bob Eubanks was brought back as host of the Newlywed Game, with the original Newlywed Game format being implemented. And because the format you created was not continuing on, you were asked to help produce the second season of the dating game, correct?
Yes. When they decided to go back to the classic version, I slid over to Dating Game, and that was hosted by Chuck Woolery. We brought back the classic version of the dating game. So I slid over to that, maybe because of my dating experience, because I'd done Studs previously, so I understood that world.
As you mentioned, this new version of the dating game was hosted by the late, great Chuck Woolery, And like the Newlywed Game, the original version of the dating game was being implemented for the second season. So since you did not get to work on the classic format of the Newlywed Game because you were tasked with developing a new format, was it exciting for you to now get to work on and produce a classic format?
Yes, I love it. I love working on classic formats because they really knew how to put those together. You know, the Goodson Todman days and Chuck Barris. And so they spent a lot of time prototyping those shows. I think the original dating game is a classic. So I was thrilled to do that. I've brought back a bunch of kind of familiar shows. You know, sometimes when you try to reinvent something very familiar, you may lose a little bit about what made it so great in the first place. So it's a high wire act.
Speaking of a classic format, let's talk about Family Feud, which you were the show's executive producer during the first 3 seasons of the syndicated run from 1999 to 2002 with host Louie Anderson. And being that last year, 2024, was the 25th anniversary of the current syndicated version of Family Feud, it's important to note that you were one of the people that helped bring the show back to television.
Yeah, that was a fun show. I really believe when you look at best formats of all time, Family Feud is probably number 1 or 2. And it had been on the shelf for a little while when we brought it back with Louie. And we tried to keep it basically what y'all remember about it. But I made a few changes to try to amp up the sense of competition.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about some of the Family Feud changes. The biggest change being that the family in the lead at the end of the 4th round would be declared the winner, meaning the traditional 300-point winning goal was no longer being used. So, Michael, were you the one who came up with the idea for this new win structure?
I think that was a collective decision. I mean, we discussed different ways. One of the people that worked on that show, redeveloping it with me, was the great Bob Bowden. And I remember sitting down and having a lot of discussions about, is this a change we should make? And I think for simplicity's sake, we went for that. It's less to explain. You just know who's ever got the most points wins.
I've had the pleasure of having Bob Bowden join me as a guest on the game show twice, and he is definitely the guy you want to have on your side when bringing back a classic format because of his knowledge of the industry.
Yes, he is. Bob is the man. He's a walking game show encyclopedia.
One element that you kept from the previous syndicated versions with Ray Combs and Richard Dawson was, if a family stole the round from their opponents, the point value of the answer they gave to steal would be added to the bank, unlike on the original Richard Dawson and Ray Combs versions, where the stolen answer's point value was not added. Brad fact! Now, I personally never liked the element of the stolen answer's point value being included, as the whole concept is to steal the bank that was built, not add to it. So what was the thought process behind keeping this gameplay element?
It kind of feels natural that you steal and you get the points. It felt like the right thing. I remember Bob Bowden and myself and Howard Felcher met for lunch. Howard Felcher produced the previous versions of Feud and produced Feud for years. And he was a great font of knowledge, and we were able to talk a lot about different decision points. And we ran our points by him to say, do you remember any reason why this would create other problems? Because anytime you make a change, you often can create unforeseen difficulties. And Howard's like, no, I think that's a great idea. Go with that. We like that. And so, sure enough, we did. And again, you just never know what are some consequences of making changes. Can this come back to bite us? And I don't think any of them did.
I actually think one of the most underrated game show theme songs is the new Family Feud theme song that was used on the syndicated version of the show from 1999 to 2008, as it was a very catchy tune. So when you were bringing back Family Feud in 1999, was it always in the plans to create a brand new theme song, or were there talks about using the original theme song?
There were some talks about using the original theme. I wanted to feel at the beginning like almost like a boxing match where you hear clang, 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 and it's the start of this battle, of this feud. I was trying to intentionally get away from the Whitman sampler graphics and the kind of bluegrassy theme. I thought, if we're going to bring it back after all this time, let's really make it feel fresh. And so I purposely made those changes. Since I really wasn't messing with the format much, I wanted it to feel updated and more contemporary.
Today on Family Feud, from Lima, Ohio, meet the Shortino family. From Lakewood, California, they're the Galvins. You're about to see these two teams battle it out for $10,000 in cash. 'Cause it's time to play the Family Feud. Now here's the star of our show, Louie Anderson.
Welcome to the Feud. It's
It's the Shortino family against the Galvin family. Sit down, strap in, and place your bets because it's time to play the feud.
We created a set as if there were people looking down. It was a big, tall set. I think Jimmy Como was the set designer for that one. And we wanted to create a different kind of a feel.
Louie Anderson did not return as Family Feud host for season 4. So did you decide to leave the show after season 3 because of Louie's departure?
Yes, I was tied to Louie. What happened was, if I recall, Fremantle went into partnership on the show, where they sold the show to the Tribune Group for distribution. And Tribune Group, I think they were interested in bringing the show a bit back closer to its original roots. And so they decided to get rid of Louie, and Louie was my guy. So it was a good time for me to leave as well.
And unfortunately, back in 2022, we sadly lost the late, great Louie Anderson.
Yeah, what a great guy. I remember there were times where he would donate his salary to firemen's funds and things like that. He was just very, very generous and sorely missed. Sweet, sweet fella.
Next, I want to talk about one of my all-time favorite game shows, and that is Russian Roulette, which aired for 2 seasons on GSN from 2002 to 2003. And you were the executive producer of Russian Roulette alongside the show's creator, Gutter Wetterberg. Of course, now it's common to see game shows involve various gimmicks of eliminating contestants, but at the time, having a contestant fall through the floor as a form of elimination was a very new tactic. So Michael, when you first heard of the concept of Russian Roulette and the idea of contestants dropping through holes in the floor, what were your initial thoughts?
First of all, I couldn't believe we were actually going to do it. I came on season 2. Gunnar produced it by himself on season 1. And then I came on because I had a lot of strong relationships with the folks over at Sony and the folks over at Game Show Network. So I came on, and knowing their tastes and sensibilities, came on and tried to bring the show even further to where they wanted it to be. First of all, I couldn't believe they were doing a show called Russian Roulette because of what that actually is. But once I saw it, and once we started to drop people through the floor, I laughed every single time. It's impossible not to laugh when all of a sudden the floor drops out from under these people. And we have them rehearse. They know what's going to happen, and they practice, so they know how to fall because there are pads under there and everything. It's as safe as we could possibly make it. And it is still funny because they're still shocked.
This was your first time working with the host of Russian Roulette and former guest on the game show, Mark L. Wahlberg. But it was a bit of a reunion for you on the Russian Roulette set, as the announcer, Burden Richardson, was also the announcer on Family Feud. And I must say, Burden's Russian Roulette intro is still one of my favorite game show introductions.
4 strangers, one goal, to win a head-to-head competition for the chance at $100,000. One wrong answer could be their last. This is Russian Roulette. From St. Louis, Missouri, Network Administrator Scott Wilcoxon. From Newark, New Jersey, computer programmer Jim Sabo. From Clovis, New Mexico, sales rep Louis Espino. From Chicago, Illinois, private investigator Ann Flanagan. And now, here's our host, Mark L. Wahlberg.
Thank you very much, and thank you, audience. Welcome to Russian Roulette. Welcome, players. How you feeling?
Great.
Right.
Well.
Feeling well.
Great intro. And he also is a wonderful singer. He would do audience warm-up, and he would sing to everybody, and it was the greatest. Great Lou Rawls kind of baritone. He's also a fantastic pilot. He took me flying many times. Wonderful guy. If I might digress, my daughter at the time was about 4 years old, and she wanted to go flying with me and Burton, and he brought her up in the plane. And at one point, she sat in the passenger seat, and he let her work the controls a little bit while we're flying. And the next day, she told all her friends, "Oh, I flew a plane." And I got parents calling me saying, "Your daughter is the biggest liar. She's telling all of us all that she's flown a plane." I had to say, that actually happened. My little kid actually flew. Burton was wonderful and entertaining that way. And you mentioned Mark Wahlberg. I also would say, and I don't know if Wahlberg would agree with me, but I think he also helped make that show. He was a perfect host.
I agree 100% about Mark, and your daughter fooled so many people, she could have been a contestant on To Tell the Truth.
Yeah, that's a great call.
It's been over 20 years since you produced Russian Roulette, and when I asked Mark L. Wahlberg if he'd like to see Russian Roulette make a return to television, he said yes. So Michael, would you like to see Russian Roulette get a revival? And if so, would you be open to producing it?
In a heartbeat. I thought it was a great format. And also, it was a very clean and simple format. You could turn in halfway and not be lost. You see how many people are there. Nobody has to explain something to you if you tune in at the 4-minute mark or 12-minute mark. I think that's another mark of a great show. Just tune in and you get sucked in. I love that show. I think Gunnar did a genius job putting that together.
Another GSN show that you worked on was the revival of 1 vs. 100, which was hosted by Dancing with the Stars judge Carrie Ananaba. And the show ran from November of 2010 to January of 2011. Now, back in 2011, GSN acquired the rights to air previous seasons of Dancing with the Stars, which it began doing in 2012. So I'm curious, was there any relation between GSN acquiring the Dancing with the Stars rights and Carrie Ananaba being chosen as their 1 vs. 100 host?
I don't think she was forced on us or anything. I remember meeting with her and she was charming. It may have been just a healthy synergy to have her on both shows, but she was lovely. And that show was a show where even when the network hired me to do it, I don't think they were convinced that we could pull it off. That was a show that was so complicated because, instead of 100 humans in the studio, we had a virtual wall of people. And in that virtual wall, I think maybe 10 people were real people that could get picked. So it was a very challenging show from a technological standpoint, especially back in that day when our computers weren't as sophisticated. And one thing we had to do to create our virtual thing is we pre-test them, and then we'd put them in a room and record reactions of them smiling like they got it right or if they got it wrong. And it was almost like a video game when you watched it on TV where their reactions were true to how they performed on the test. Very complicated. I just remember everyone saying, we really never thought this would work.
So were the mob members actually in their homes?
No, we brought them to a school or an army base, and we had them fill out all of the answers. We gave them all of the game material that they had to fill out. When I say the contestants, I mean the people on the virtual wall, our 100, the mob. But it was a virtual mob primarily.
So basically, the mob members were tested beforehand on all the questions that would be used for the game, and during the recording of the episode, they wouldn't be playing along with the contestant, but instead, if the mob member got the question wrong on the pre-test, that's what would cause their elimination from the game.
Exactly. They'd get eliminated, and they didn't know if they got them right or wrong, but we had pre-taped their reactions, and the computer was able to match a reaction with performance. And of that wall of the mob of 100 people, I think 10 or 12 were actual people.
Obviously, GSN doesn't have the same budget as NBC Primetime, so the top prize for 1 vs. 100 was reduced from $1 million down to $50,000. With that being said, were you nervous that the fans of the original version wouldn't appreciate the game as much now, since the main objective of eliminating 100 people remained exactly the same, but the top prize was reduced by $950,000?
I don't think so, because I think people love the gameplay and the format itself. They love this notion of 1 versus 100. I didn't think by virtue of the amount of money you're ultimately giving away was going to make or break an audience. And we're on Game Show Network. I don't think anyone has expectations that we're going to be able to maintain what everyone else had.
Were there ever any talks of getting Bob Saget, the host of the original NBC version, to reprise his hosting role on GSN's 1 vs. 100?
There may have been some conversations about seeing if we could get Saget to do it before we hired Carrie Ann, but I don't think we could have afforded him.
And unfortunately, another huge recent loss to the game show industry, Bob Saget.
Huge. What a talented, funny guy.
Next, I want to talk about Big Fan, which was an ABC game show that aired in January of 2017 with host Andy Richter. And the concept was based on the Jimmy Kimmel Live segment, Who Knows? Big Fan featured a celebrity guest on each episode, along with 3 contestants who claimed to know anything and everything about the celebrity guest's life and career. And the contestants were asked questions about the celebrity in order to earn the right to go up against them in the bonus round, to see who really knows more about the celebrity, the contestant or the celebrity themselves. Brad fact! Now, I've always been a big fan, pun intended, of the contestant versus expert game show format, as I think it lends itself to exciting gameplay and exciting TV moments. But it's unfortunately not a format that we see very often. So Michael, since you had never worked on a game show with a contestant versus expert structure, was that something that excited you from a producer's standpoint?
Yeah, it was exciting. Also to try to dig up enough information that viewers would find interesting, that it wasn't something that was so obscure, but it had to be obscure enough, like I can't believe a contestant would actually know that. I think one of the biggest ones I remember was we had Matthew McConaughey on, and a contestant knew his SAT score and he didn't. It's just amazing stuff.
There were only 4 episodes made of Big Fan, and the celebrities featured on these episodes were Matthew McConaughey, Aaron Rodgers, Kim Kardashian, and Kristen Bell. Brad fact! So were the celebrities casted prior to the contestants, and then the casting team had to find people that were truly knowledgeable about these individuals? Or were these celebrities asked to participate after the casting team already found multiple people who were big fans of them?
Oh, no. We had to cast the celebrities first. And that was obviously the hardest part, is casting the celebrities first. And then we would go to fan clubs and other places that super fans might congregate and cast from that pool. I think it also helped. That was a show that Jimmy Kimmel was also one of the executive producers. And Jimmy was so helpful in making sure that we kept comedy in the front seat and not game in the front seat of that particular show, because it's one where a viewer isn't necessarily playing along. I wouldn't know Matthew McConaughey's SAT score, and I wouldn't expect your average viewer to. But being able to set it up for the comedy is what made that show different from a lot of other games. And hence why I think Andy was such a perfect host. His instincts are always to get a really funny, natural laugh.
Over the last decade, it's been a very common practice to turn talk show game segments into their own primetime game or competition shows. The Tonight Show segment Lip Sync Battle got its own show in 2015, but in terms of game shows, Big Fan was the first of its kind, as I truly feel it paved the way for shows like Ellen's Game of Games, That's My Jam, and Generation Gap. However, because it only lasted for 4 episodes and is sadly barely remembered, I don't think Big Fan is given the credit it deserves for jump-starting the segment-to-show game show subgenre. So when all the episodes of Big Fan finished airing, did you assume that other talk shows were going to try the same thing? Turn their game segments into full-on productions?
I think everyone looked into their catalog of whatever they've done in the history of that show and said, how can we do this? You already have a pre-existing IP. People are familiar with it. So it's easier for viewers. You've already tested it on your show. So yeah, I think everyone kind of looked and said, what can we do? And it's a smart thing. I think we'll be seeing that for a long time to come. These talk shows are continuing to say, oh, what kind of segments can we do that we may be able to spin off into another show or spin it off into an app game or whatever they're going to do.
Yeah, it's kind of like the new version of the backdoor pilot.
Yeah, exactly.
Were there ever any plans to make more episodes of Big Fan, or was it always known that the show was just going to be a 4-episode January filler?
We would have loved to do more episodes. Just sometimes you do these things and the network says they've got enough of them. But that was a show we had a good time with. We would have been happy to do more. But the biggest challenge for Big Fan was the casting, finding the right celebrity and a celebrity that would have enough of a passionate fan base to come on. The other thing I remember when we were developing it to be very careful of is at no time did we want these passionate fans to come off stalkerish. So that was the other thing in the casting process, is we wanted it to be as positive as we could possibly make it.
Now let's move on to GSN's Divided, which you were the executive producer on for the show's 2 seasons that ran from 2017 to 2018. Divided was originally a game show in the UK that ran for 2 seasons from 2009 to 2010. So prior to working on the version for GSN, had you ever heard of or seen the British version of Divided? And what made GSN want to produce a, theoretically, short-lived British game show that last aired 7 years prior?
I had never heard of the show, but my friend Jay Beanstalk sent me a link to the UK version. And Jay Beanstalk at the time was running the US arm of Talpa, the company that produced it. I thought it had an end game that I had never seen before and thought it was one of the smartest end games I'd ever seen. I don't know if your viewers recall the concept behind Divided, but it was a multiple choice question and your contestants all had to agree on an answer. And the longer it took them to agree on an answer, the less money they would make, assuming that they chose the correct answer. And there was an elimination. I believe the UK version was an hour long. And I remember in our version, we kept talking, do we do an elimination? We wanted to do it in a half hour so it would move a lot faster than the UK version, which seemed to have a bit more of a lethargic pace. And we felt like for Divided, it needed to be a fast-moving game so you could get on to the next question. So we built in a single elimination. We started out with 4 contestants, I believe, and then we brought it down to 3. But I wasn't part of the pitching process. Jay and the folks at Talpa were able to get them interested enough to bite at the game, and then we did a lot of run-throughs. So, oftentimes what GSN will do is they'll option a show, you do a bunch of conference room run-throughs, and if it really feels like the show is legit and has legs and could interest viewers, then you move on to the next step to pilot or a limited order.
You mentioned the elimination factor of the game, which the original UK version of Divided did not have. So why did you decide to include an elimination as part of GSN's Divided?
I think the elimination was critical. It put stakes on the earlier rounds. You get to vote somebody off. I think that was a good moment where they all had to agree who to vote out, and people would make their pitch why they should stay. So even the person who potentially got it wrong or was advocating for the wrong answer every time could get voted out. sometimes it was the person who got them right, because the final round, you're dividing the money between all the people that survived. And it was an unequal amount of money that was going to be divided. And you might want to get rid of the person that you thought was going to likely try to hog it. And to tell that story in a half hour, there's a lot there, which I thought was good. But we did 2 seasons. I thought it could have gone on longer, and I thought it would have. But when we were wrapping, I think there were more political divides happening in our country. And I think as a result of that, GSN wanted to start to move away from conflict and have shows that were just a lot easier to be able to watch while you're folding laundry or something. But I hope they will continue to air Divided in some way. I think that end game to that show is one of the greatest I think I've ever seen. We all have seen different versions of The Prisoner's Dilemma, but we've never seen this. It's an excellent show. Very proud of that one.
Unlike the UK version of Divided, which featured predominantly trivia-based questions, many of the questions on GSN's Divided revolved around polls, surveys, and ways of thinking. So was this change made because ways of thinking questions might cause more debate amongst the players when trying to collectively choose the correct answer? Or was this change used as a way to differentiate Divided from a standard trivia show?
We wanted to be able to create opportunities for there to be conflict of opinions and for people to feel passionately one way or the other. So I think that's one of the reasons why we started to do more of, according to a Marist poll, we started to do more poll results because it became more opinionated. So we leaned into that. It wasn't exclusively that, and we tried to have a nice balance of kind of straighter trivia with the opinion-based polls. But we knew that the opinion-based polls were more likely to debate opinions. You're not going to debate about the capital of a certain country, but you might debate about what age people are tending to get married or how you should discipline children. And the more we could get them talking, the less money they're going to make because that clock is running down. And the more they're losing money, the more panicked they become. And their instinct is to lock something in very quickly or they're going to lose all the money. Why are we talking about this? Lock it in, lock it in. So to be able to lean into that feature of the game was important.
The takeover button was a new addition to the game for the GSN version. Twice during the game, after the first question is completed, a team member can hit the takeover button and lock in their answer for the entirety of the team. Brad fact. Now, on one hand, the takeover button definitely provides for some exciting moments within the game and definitely highlights the tension as the question's correct answer is being revealed. However, on the other hand, it kind of deters from the spirit of the game, which is to unanimously agree as a team on what answer to lock in. So what was the thought process behind creating and including the takeover button?
There were a lot of discussions about what little things can we add that are adjacent to the game. I think when Millionaire came on the air and there were all these different possibilities, the phone a friend, all these other sort of adjacent strategy things you could do, people were always looking, how can we add something like that? And I think that's where the takeover button came from, is that how can we make it one level more than just a simple game? By the way, in retrospect, I don't think it was necessary.
Next, I want to talk about Child Support, which aired for 2 seasons on ABC in 2018. Child Support involved one contestant answering up to 10 general knowledge trivia questions. However, if the contestant gets a question wrong, they can be saved by the aid of 5 children, because if one of the kids answers the question correctly, the contestant's game continues on. Now, obviously, this format is somewhat similar to the Fox game show Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? So as one of the executive producers of Child Support, was it one of your goals to make the game feel as different from Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader as possible? Because I'm guessing you thought viewers were going to compare the 2 shows.
I think that was in the background. I think the biggest thing is how can we have fun with Ricky Gervais in a room full of kids? Because he's such a legendary curmudgeon that putting him in a room full of kids I thought was a perfect recipe for comedy.
With regards to the kids, were there ever any talks about having the kids play the game on stage in real time instead of pre-recording the kids playing the questions beforehand in a separate room?
There were thoughts about it, but kids are difficult to work with. It was so much easier for us to be able to cut these packages of them than to just hope that we would get gold in the studio, because they're not as predictable as we would like. These were pretty young kids, too, if I recall. And the other thing about that show that made it so fun is that sometimes these kids would come up with answers just like, how did they even know that? Or it's also dealing with the stuff you ought to know as a contestant, the 6th planet from the sun, things you should know and you don't. In that respect, it's a little like 5th grader.
Obviously, each question written for Child Support was going to be asked to both an adult as well as a group of children. So especially for the higher money amounts, was it difficult crafting a large pool of questions that were challenging for the contestants to answer, but also fair enough that the kids might be able to answer them?
Absolutely. That was difficult. One of the challenges of that show, and this is a little bit of a digression, was making sure that if the contestant got it right on that show, it was still entertaining, to go back to Ricky and the Kids. Stacking those shows were very complicated because we wanted to make sure that we really did feel a true escalation in difficulty, but the kids could still have a chance of getting it right.
Did the format rules specifically say that each individual kid was only allowed one guess per question, and that the group was given a specific amount of time to come up with a correct answer? Because from what we were shown, it seemed like the kids were allowed to guess as many answers as they like, and there was no set time limit Ricky was following.
I don't think it was part of the format. What never happened was we didn't give the kids the answers. They weren't coached in that way. If we felt like the kids were on the cusp of getting it, we would give them the time. We knew that because we're cutting them down to tighter packages, and all that really matters is did the kids get it or did they not get it, we could make it as short and as fun as we wanted to.
In 2018, ABC was in full swing with its big boom of reboots, as I like to call it, as the network's summertime lineup featured 5 game show revivals. However, Child Support was the first completely new game show that the network produced since it started focusing on rebooting classic game shows a couple years prior. Brad fact! So Michael, did you think Child Support might be the first step towards ABC having the confidence to create and greenlight more original game show concepts?
There's always the hope that if you can create an original concept that will break through, it will open the door for more originals. But I get it. I get why you're competing with IP like bringing back Match Game, where all of your viewers, or at least a good percentage of your viewers, know what it is. It's a lot easier to sell Match Game than it is Child Support.
Now let's move on to America Says, which aired for 5 seasons on GSN from 2018 to 2022. Now, Michael, I know that you weren't the executive producer for all 5 seasons, so what season did you first join the show?
I was brought in for, I think it might have been season 3. John Quinn started America Says and then went on to do some other shows and couldn't stay with the show, and then GSN brought me in to run it when John left.
When you take over an executive producer job from someone who made a show successful, of course your goal is to continue to make a great show that resonates with the viewers. But Michael, did you have a specific goal that you wanted to accomplish when taking over the America Says executive producer role?
What I wanted to make sure when I got there was that I was able to maintain the comedy and the play-along value that John had set up. So I wasn't interested in reinventing anything, just maintaining the quality.
I'm curious, when you first heard the concept of America Says, because you executive produced Family Feud for 3 years and helped start the popular syndicated Family Feud run that is still airing, did you think the gameplay of America Says was too similar to Family Feud?
Sure, there's a lot of similarities with Family Feud, and I think one of the biggest ones is what makes Feud so good. I always say that Feud is a game that's impossible not to play along. Name something you find in a bathroom. Well, I've already got 10 things in my brain, and I'm ready to fill up that board.
I've always been a firm believer that, for fairness, the contestants should always have as much control of their game as possible when playing. So did you ever consider allowing the teams to actually select the questions that they will play during each round? Whether it be based on a category or just putting the letters A, B, and C on the board and having the teams choose one? Because there have been plenty of instances where one team's question is theoretically easier than their opponent's question, specifically with topics like movie titles or names or geographic locations.
I suppose we could. One of the things, and maybe the other answer to that is that we could make clearer, is we do randomized material so that at no time are we ever matching a stack with a team. So if we lean into, hey, the material's all random, this is the one you happen to get. The truth is that contestants have a limited amount of control. What's more important is the sense of randomization. And sometimes we double randomize.
America Says truly ushered in Game Show Network's current production structure, which is simple, easy-to-produce games, oftentimes based on classic game show formats, in which the contestants play for points, and the winner of the main game earns $1,000, plus the chance to turn that into the grand prize, predominantly $10,000, during the bonus round. As we've talked about, you worked on several shows for GSN, each of which had a different structure, from the high-stakes Russian Roulette, to a reboot of 1 vs. 100, to an American version of Divided. So Michael, when you began producing America Says, did the GSN network executives explain to you that shows like America Says were the structure of game shows GSN was looking to produce going forward?
Absolutely. You know, we talked about when I did Divided for them a few years prior, and Divided was a show that was about drama and excitement and tension. And in its own way, America Says is the opposite. It's a show about just enjoying it, about people smiling and having a good time, playing along with a fun, easy show. So I knew that that's what they wanted to do because I think there's an expectation on Game Show Network that not all the viewers are just sitting down in front of the TV. They're doing other things. They're on second screens or doing chores or whatever else they're doing. So I think they decided they want to make their shows as easy as possible.
The last show we are going to talk about is 25 Words or Less, which you have been an executive producer on for 6 seasons. Now, prior to its premiere in 2019, it had been a really long time since we had seen an original word-based game show. So, Michael, was the idea of being involved with a new word-based game show what interested you in wanting to produce 25 Words or Less?
What interested me was I saw the board game, I played a little of it, and I was hooked. I love word-based game shows. The two best ones prior to this, I think, were probably Pyramid and Password. I loved playing along with those, and this had something similar, and yet using a different muscle. This is using the muscle of word economy, and I love it. I'm a puzzle guy, so anytime you give me a word that I know I have to get my partner to say with as few words as possible, I always in my brain, I'm playing along. And so I was hooked immediately.
25 Words or Less actually got its start as a 20-episode test run that aired during the summer of 2018. And the biggest difference with regards to the test run is that there were 4 regular rounds instead of 3. And the contestant would decide whether they wanted to be the 4th round clue giver or select one of their 2 celebrity teammates to be the 4th round clue giver. Brad fact! For me, I think the 4th round is needed for the game, as it not only provides the episode with more gameplay, but since it allows for more points to be scored, it could give one of the contestants more of an advantage going into the Build Your Board round. So Michael, why was the 4th regular round eliminated from the format when the show premiered?
It was purely timing. That show, maybe we're at 19 minutes of actual programming that we've got to fill, and this is another game where we're working on a clock. So once the game started, I can't edit for time, because I'm locked to a clock. I'm married to it. So we said, let's just lose it. Let's see if we just get rid of it when we miss it. We did run throughs and we got rid of that round and nobody missed it. There's so little room for me to add anything. And in addition, when I came on board, what I really wanted to do also was have a lot of fun, casual conversations between Meredith and the celebrities and get to know them and laugh and have a good time and encourage the good times they were having playing this game. Because I strongly believe when they're having fun with what they're doing, I think the viewers are enjoying it more.
I'm personally not a big fan of the bidding war because if I'm gonna be honest, I find it a bit boring to watch. So did you ever consider having the clue givers write down a secret bid after seeing the 5 answer words and the lowest bidder would get to play the board? Because not only does this method save time, it involves more strategy as the player in one bid has to decide the least number of clue words it would take to get all 5 answers.
Well, we actually tried that in season 1. I don't know if we did it in more than one episode, but we tried it where they wrote on a board what their bid was and they held it up simultaneously, and whoever had the smaller number, that's the person who got to play. And if they coincidentally had the same number, we gave them time to rebid. So we did try it that way, but for some reason it didn't feel as clean. It might have been too many props at the time. What I do remember was they had 3 matches in a row where they both came out with 15, and then they came to 14, and then they went to 13. And so they kept matching, and we're like, oh, here we go again.
Well, if the bids are the same, you could just have the player who locked in their bid faster decide whether they want to play the board or pass it to their opponent.
Yeah, I'm not against doing that sort of thing. I agree. It's not very entertaining to see somebody say, oh, I can do this in 24, I can do it in 23, I can do it in 20, and this the back and forth when they're just going incrementally. Most of that I lose in editing anyway, so that you rarely see a bid go back and forth more than 2 or 3 times.
With regards to the Build Your Board rounds, I've never understood why a team earns the same number of points, 250, for guessing one easy word correctly, as they earn for winning a regular round which consists of guessing 5 words of varying difficulty correctly. Shouldn't the hard words be worth 250 points, and say the medium words be worth 150 points, and the easy words be worth 100 points, so that the regular rounds, which are the majority of the game, hold more value for multiple reasons?
That's one of the things where I'd have to look at it and say, is that going to increase our chances of ties? Is it going to keep their odds of ties the same? Will it reduce the amount of ties? Because I think 1 out of every 20 episodes or so, we seem to have a tie and we break out the tiebreaker. But based on what you're saying, it makes sense. We could have done it that way. But we know only one team is going to leave Act 3 surviving. So we want to make sure that there's the potential for a come behind to win, but also that the front game actually has a value, that it means something. It's unfair if somebody came in with nothing and they win. You got to really earn it to be able to walk out of that Build Your Board round coming in with nothing. If the other team has 750 points and you got nothing, you're going to have to earn it.
In Season 3, when the change was made to have teams comprised of one celebrity and two contestants, it was decided that the celebrity would always be creating their team's board for the Build Your Board round, meaning they are also giving the clues. However, wouldn't it be more fair if one of the two contestants builds their team board and gives the clues? Especially since one of the team's contestants would then have a say in what answer words and the corresponding point values are being chosen. And if the contestant gives an illegal clue or doesn't do a good job giving clues, the reason for their loss is more on them and not the celebrity.
I think that's certainly something that we'll be discussing. In the first season, I think one of the things that we had, particularly in those test episodes, was they would decide who would give the clues in the end game. And sometimes the celebrity would give the clues, and then we're like, no, the contestants have to be responsible for their own destiny. So we made sure that it was the contestant giving the clues in that bonus round. So, yeah, I think it's certainly something worth discussing in the Build a Board game to give them the option to be the ones who are in control of their fate.
Also for the Build Your Board round, don't you think it would be more fair if the teams build a board consisting of 6 answers so that both teams have 3 chances to select the 1,000-point answer? And even with the added answer word, you can still keep the clue word limit at 20 since most clue givers don't even use all 20 words while they're playing.
It has never come up in a conversation, but it is something that is possible to do it that way. I will tell you that one of the things that we do is we have a stop down when they've picked, because the team that goes second is always the team that has the highest potential amount of points, so that we never have a win after the first team has played. We want to make sure that that round has some value.
Building off of that, with regards to the Slotomania words or the Solitaire Grand Harvest words that are in play during the Build Your Board round, if the team that goes second has won the game midway through their playing, but they haven't had the chance to earn the $250 in bonus money due to those words being further down the answer list, why don't you let the winning team continue playing the round so that they could win the bonus money?
Well, we talked about that, and one of the things that we found when we did run-throughs was that you know when the game is over. So it's sort of like, we know they already have enough points. Why are we doing this? Or we know the other team is lost because they got one wrong. Why are we prolonging their decision? What we decided was that the Slotomania or the Solitaire Grand Harvest, that's just a bonus. If they get it, great. Our eye is on the main game. And that's why we didn't make an adjustment so they could potentially win it. We stop the game when the game is over.
Well, I'll play a little devil's advocate to your thought process. Since the point values are not being shown on the screen during gameplay, had the viewers not been told that the team won the game, many of them probably wouldn't even know that mathematically the game was over since they are not keeping track of the score themselves.
Yeah, oftentimes they're not. But again, for some reason, we just always feel like we know, particularly when Meredith says things like, you got to get all 5 to win the game.
In Season 3, the show introduced the element of returning champions, which I love because we had not seen a new game show featuring returning champions in a long time. However, one game show element that I feel would be perfect to use on 25 words or less is the 2-loss rule, and that means a team can stay on the show until they have lost the game twice. This element was used on a few Tom Kennedy-hosted game shows, including Body Language, You Don't Say, and To Say the Least. Brad fact! The 2-loss rule would not only help casting, as you would need to cast less teams per season, but it provides the teams more opportunities to play the game, especially if a team passed all 3 regular board rounds to their opponents and barely got a chance to play. In addition, if the main game ends in a tie, the tiebreaker would still be played to see who moves on to the money round, but it wouldn't count as a loss for the tiebreaker losing team, as I personally think the 25 words or less tiebreaker is not a fair way to determine the winner. So Michael, would you ever consider implementing the 2-loss rule into the format?
I love the returning champs. I love that we added that. It tells good stories. We have people on for, I think 17 games. And so those are all better stories and fun stories that you're able to track these people. The 2-loss rule, I don't know. I'd have to think how additive it would be. Because like saying, okay, well, they just knocked out these guys. Can the next team that comes to face them be as good as these returning champs? And so I'm always looking forward as a viewer. I feel like I'm looking forward to seeing, maybe tomorrow, whoever they face might be as good or better than they are. If it's a rematch, I might be less inclined to feel that excitement. But I would love to bring people back on the show. This week, we're all dealing with people who have lost the tiebreaker and given them another shot, or people who had a perfect score going into it. There are a lot of people who missed the end game by just one, so that I can bring people back and give them another chance at victory. I think those are all good stories. There are an awful lot of really great teams that, through no fault of their own, weren't able to come back for the next episode.
With regards to the celebrities, I know for the $25,000 pyramid and the $100,000 pyramid back in the 80s, there was a training process for all the celebrities. So I'm curious if you put your celebrity guests through a 25 words or less training process before they play the game, especially the first-time celebrities.
Yes, we put them through a boot camp. First of all, we make sure that they've watched the show. We send them the home game, and then we do a Zoom boot camp with them just to get them acclimated to the game and get their brains thinking in that way. You know, there are some games, 25 words or less being one of them, that isn't for everybody. It's an easy game to watch, a harder game to play. So we do a boot camp with everybody. And then we practice in the morning before they even get out there and meet a contestant. And oftentimes when I have a new celebrity that I'm introducing, I will pair a new celebrity with returning champs and the new team with a veteran, because I feel like it helps balance it a little bit. My favorite celebrities are the ones that are able to give a few clues, but with inflection and using their voice, they're able to give extra information. Jane Lynch did the show several times, and on one of the episodes, the word was nerve. And her clue was, "You got a lot of," and they're like, "Nerve?" Now, had Jane said it any other way, had she said, "You've got a lot of," they could have said anything. But the way Jane said it, "You got a lot of," it was genius.
It was a common practice during many classic game show bonus rounds to offer money for each individual correct answer if the contestant didn't win the grand prize. And so I've always wanted to see the winning team on 25 words or less receive at least $200 for each correctly guessed word in the bonus round if they don't win the $10,000 grand prize. One reason is so the bonus round can continue to be played if the contestant gives an illegal clue. And the other reason is, if a superfan can earn $1,000 just for sitting at home and watching the bonus round play out, the winning team should have the opportunity to earn money for actually playing the bonus rounds, even if they don't win the $10,000. So Michael, were there ever any talks of giving the contestants money for each correct word guessed during the bonus round?
Yeah, we talked about it because it does seem to naturally lend itself to a money board. And if they've created a foul on the second word, yes, you're right. There's a reason to keep playing. We know that they're not going to win the big thing, but maybe they'll win $1,000.
As you can tell, Michael, I love coming up with ideas on how to make current game shows better. So if you're looking for more fresh ideas for next season of 25 words or less, feel free to let me know.
Sure.
Before we get to the game, I have two final questions for you. The first one being this. The game show industry currently, I feel, is in a very divided state, no pun intended, as there are a number of high-budget primetime network game shows and a number of low-budget daytime syndicated game shows. But not many game shows in the middle, if you don't count the legacy game shows like Jeopardy, Wheel of Fortune, and The Price is Right. So Michael, from your perspective as a game show producer, what do you see the industry looking like moving forward, especially when it comes to original game show formats being produced?
I expect things to continue in this direction at the extremes and hollowing out the middle, just because of the way things are going. I think the networks are taking bigger swings. They'll take a bigger swing on an original. But in syndication, if you can do a game inexpensively enough, then you've got a shot at that. Those middle games are very difficult to get off the ground. The daytime and syndicated budgets, they just keep getting smaller and smaller because viewership across the board is shrinking.
With regards to viewership, I always question why more game shows don't upload their episodes to YouTube like 25 Words or Less does in order to get a bigger audience.
Yeah, me too. To us, it just gets more people excited about the show. And it's just another way for people to experience us. I think we're lucky at 25 Words or Less. We got lucky that we made adjustments once COVID hit and created this pod format. And it seems to have improved the show. The pod version, everyone's staring straight ahead, right into the camera. You never see a profile. I'm told by my contestants and my celebrities that it's an easier way to focus on the game. So we've had some good breaks.
Lastly, as someone like myself who has been aspiring to become a game show host since I was 7 years old, it is very discouraging to see many of the game show hosting spots going to celebrities and big names personalities instead of people who are more experienced in the hosting field or people who are specifically passionate about the game show world. So being someone who has never aspired to be a movie actor or a comedian and has been perfecting their craft for the sole ultimate goal of being a game show host, why don't many producers nowadays take a chance on new qualified talent to host their game shows, especially if it's a syndicated show and not a primetime network show?
The reality is these people are putting a lot of money, millions and millions of dollars behind the show, and they need to attract viewers. And they're going to attract viewers by a great format, potentially with existing IP, maybe a name brand host who they recognize and already are bringing feelings for. They're tuning in to see what this person is going to add to it as a game show host. And so every way that you could possibly up your chances of being a success, that's what they're going to do. and why it's harder and harder for somebody who doesn't have a background or viewers aren't familiar with to be able to break through. The good news is we live in a time where media is so democratic that you could be hosting your own stuff and putting it on YouTube, and Game Show Network will see it and say, hey, let's try this. So there are ways to jettison yourself up a level by doing it yourself. And that's something we didn't have before.
Well, hopefully there are a few network executives listening to this episode right now, as I'm about to showcase my game creating, hosting, and playing skills all at once. Because, Michael, we have reached my favorite portion of the game show, and we are about to team up and play a game that you are very familiar with. In fact, it's the game show we most recently talked about during our interview. It's time for the game of the day.
Game of the day.
Now, Michael, I really shouldn't be using too many words during this introduction because in just a few moments, I'll only have access to a limited number of words. And I hope by now you know what game we are going to play.
I certainly do, and I'm excited. This game I can play. I'm glad there's no spelling and no drawing. I'm in.
Well, drawing and spelling are definitely not part of this game. It's time to play 25 words or less. "25 words or less. And here's how we play this version of 25 words or less. I have open in front of me the 25 words or less Season 5 episodes playlist on the 25 words or less YouTube channel, which contains all 160 episodes of the show's 5th season. When the game starts, I'm going to ask you to pick a number between 1 and 160, as well as select round 1, 2, or 3. I will then go to the chosen episodes round, and that will be the list of 5 answer words I have to try and get you to guess using my own clues in 45 seconds. So what this means is we are going to be using actual answer lists from Season 5 of the show to play this game, but I won't be watching the playing of the round from the show because I have to think of the clues I want to use all by myself. Just like the format of the game, we'll play 3 regular rounds, 2 build your board rounds, and a 60-second bonus round. In addition, to make the game a little more challenging, and to prove to both you and myself that I am good at the game, for the 3 regular rounds, the amount of clue words I'll be allowed to use will be 1 less than the amount the giver had for that round on the show. So if the giver had 12 clue words, I'll only have 11. You'll select a new Season 5 episode for each round we play, and if we can successfully win 4 out of the 6 rounds, we will be deemed 25 words or less champions.
Okay.
So Michael, those are all the rules. Are you ready to go from 25 words or less executive producer to 25 words or less player?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Then let's play 25 words or less. And in case you were wondering why we are only using Season 5 episodes, that is the first full season on YouTube in which every episode is numbered. So it makes it easier for me to find which episode you select for each round we play.
Okay.
So Michael, let's begin with the first of 3 regular rounds. And which Season 5 episode would you like to select?
17.
And would you like to play round 1, round 2, or round 3 from that episode?
1.
Episode 17, round 1 it is. And this round is being played by Corbin Blue. And the winning bid was 13 words, which means I have 12 clue words to get you to say all 5 answers.
Okay.
12 words, 45 seconds on the clock. Our time starts now. Dinner paper.
Menu.
Wipe.
Napkin.
Yes. Pass. Nose hole.
Nostril.
Yes. Cobra.
Snake.
Yes. Leg pain.
Charlie horse. Muscle cramp.
Yes. Hair extremely wet.
Not damp. Extremely wet. Soaking.
Yes!
Is that it?
Soak was the answer.
Okay, good. See, you got it.
I told you I'm pretty good at the game, and you are too. So, Michael, that was our first winning round.
There you go. Well done.
And let's keep this momentum going into round 2. Which episode would you like?
100.
Episode 100 it is. And which round would you like to play?
2.
Round 2 this time. And it looks like the contestant got to play the winning bid of 15 words, so I will get to use 14 clue words.
All right.
14 words, 45 seconds on the clock. Our time starts now. Shopping wheels.
Cart.
Yes. Needle in.
Haystack.
Yes. Eyebrow pluckers.
Tweezers.
Yes. Big beer container.
Keg.
Yes. Dog.
Cat.
Yes.
Okay, you must have had an 8.
It was actually 10, but I probably could have done it in 8 words.
Yeah, for cat, you could have just said meow. Oh, but dog, you did it in one anyway. Good. Excellent job.
Thank you so much. And that was our second round 1, which means we are halfway to a victory. And let's move on to round 3, which will be our final regular round that we play. So which episode would you like to choose next, Michael?
75.
Episode 75 is your choice. And are we playing round 1, 2, or 3?
You know, I'm going to say 2.
Round 2, which means another contestant giving round. And by coincidence, for the second round in a row, you picked a round 2 15-word winning bid, which means once again I will have 14 words to get you to say all 5 answers.
Okay.
14 words, 45 seconds on the clock. Our time starts now. Dorothy's dog.
Toto.
Correct. Pancake flipper.
Spatula.
Correct. Kilt country.
Scotland.
Yes. Morning read.
Morning read. Morning read.
Times.
Newspaper.
Yes. Letter ending word.
Letter ending word. Yours.
Mm-hmm.
Truly.
Mm-hmm.
Best wishes.
Mm-hmm.
Letter ending word.
Time's up. I was trying to get you to say the word sincerely because the answer was sincere.
Oh, sincerely is a tough one. You did great.
I appreciate it. Well, let's put that loss behind us and move on to our 4th round. And this is going to be the first of 2 Build Your Board rounds that we play. So, Michael, what episode would you like to pick for this round?
2.
Right at the beginning of the season, episode 2. And would you like to play board 1 or 2?
1.
You got it. And board 1 was chosen by Colton Dunn and consists of 4 yellow answers followed by a red answer.
Okay.
I get 20 clue words for this round, so 20 words, 45 seconds on the clock, and our time starts now. Ricky Martin, she...
Oh, not she, Bob. She... Pass.
Pass. Italian cheese.
Ricotta.
Sprinkle.
Parmesan.
Yes. Japanese fast locomotive.
Bullet train.
Yes. Sermon.
Sermon.
Church leader.
Priest. Pastor.
Yes. Question order game shows.
Question order game shows. True, false. Multiple choice. Question order game shows.
Time's up. This word was mentioned before in our conversation, so that's why I said question order game shows. The answer was random.
Oh, that's a tough one.
And the Ricky Martin answer was bangs, referring to his song She Bangs.
Bangs. Yeah.
I should have went the hair route with bangs.
Yeah. Short forehead hair.
Yeah, that probably would have worked better. But it's okay because we can still win the game. All we have to do is win the next 2 rounds. And Michael, I have complete confidence that we can claim victory.
Again, Bradley, I have faith in you.
Excellent. This is round 5 of 6. And which episode are we going to now?
5.
How fitting, episode 5. And would you like to play Build Your Board round 1 or 2?
2.
Board 2 is the selection, and Jaleel White built this board, which consists of 2 yellows, followed by 2 greens, followed by another yellow. So here we go, 20 words, 45 seconds on the clock. Our time starts now. Squeeze box.
Accordion.
Yes. Driving circle.
Driving circle. Cul-de-sac.
Hands.
Wheel. Steering wheel.
Yes. And key.
Lock.
Yes. Key instrument.
Ignition.
Ivory.
Oh, piano.
Yes. 25th wedding.
Anniversary.
Yes.
Hey, there you go. You did it, Bradley.
No, Michael, we did it. This is definitely a team effort. And just like many great game show moments, it comes down to the final round. We have reached the 6th and final round, which means we are going to play a bonus round from the episode of your choosing. And if I can get you to say all 10 answer words using 25 clue words in 60 seconds or less, we will claim victory. So, Michael, which episode's bonus round are we going to play?
10.
Episode 10 is your selection, and here we go. 25 words at my disposal, 1 minute on the clock this time. For a Game of the Day victory, our time starts now. Dull.
Sharp.
Light.
Heavy.
Pass. Pollution.
Smog.
Yes. Found.
Lost.
Yes. English elevator.
Lift.
Yes. Neil Armstrong.
Astronaut.
Yes. Cleaver action.
Chop.
Yes. 1.
2.
Yes. Van Gogh.
Vincent. Painter.
Yes. Teeth rubbed together.
Gnash. Gnaw. Grind.
Yes. Famous ship.
Titanic.
Yes. Lamp.
Shade.
Light. Extremely.
Bright.
Yes!
Okay. That's what you meant. Dull to bright. Well done. You found a different way in. You did a pass, so you sort of reset my mind. That was the right way to do it.
We had 2 seconds left on the clock, so it was a good old-fashioned, down-to-the-wire, exciting bonus round win, which is always the best kind of win.
That's priceless.
Priceless indeed. And just to make it official, the bonus round win was the 4th round we won out of 6. So congratulations, Michael, on winning this game of 25 words or less.
Do I get Omaha steaks, or what do I get?
No, not Omaha Steaks, Lobstergram.
Oh, perfect.
That was superb playing, Michael, and I hope my clue-giving skills prove to you that I could be a candidate for a 25 words or less celebrity player in the near future.
Absolutely. You would kill it. You'd be great.
I appreciate you saying that. Well, I certainly had fun playing 25 words or less, so thank you for letting me live out a dream by playing the game with you. And once again, Michael, congratulations on our victory!
My pleasure. I would have been mortified had we not won that bonus round. I'm glad we were able to pull it out with 2 seconds left.
I would have also been very disappointed had we not won, but thankfully we did win, and on top of that, our win came in a very exciting way. And that was the game of the day, 25 words or less. "25 words or less." Well, Michael, I have enjoyed every minute of this conversation, and I have thoroughly enjoyed learning so many new facts about the various game shows that you've produced during your incredible career so far. So from one game show fan to another, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today on the game show.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for taking me down memory lane. It's been a long time since I've even had to think about some of these, but it's been a pleasure. So thank you.
You're very welcome. And Michael, I know we talked about a lot of shows today, but there are still more game shows on your impressive resume that we didn't cover. So you always have an open invitation to be my special guest on a future episode of The Game Show so that we can continue our conversation about your career.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. And I'm looking forward to the day when we get to work together on a game show and have a fun time chatting in person about our favorite TV genre.
It would absolutely be fun.
All right, Michael, take care and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks again, Bradley.
It was my pleasure. Thank you again, Michael. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, unfortunately, the word limit is running out, which means we have sadly reached the end of this episode of The Game Show. My thanks once again to game show producer Michael Canter for being my guest today. Now, if you want to listen to other prominent game show producers talk about their incredible careers in the industry, such as Bob Bowden, Jack Martin, Roger Dobkowitz, and Jason Antonovich, who also played a version of 25 Words or Less for his Game of the Day, check out The Game Show starring Bradley Clarke on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Odyssey, and SoundCloud. And please remember to like, follow, and subscribe. Plus, don't forget to like The Game Show starring Bradley Clarke on Facebook and follow The Game Show starring Bradley Clarke on Twitter using the handle @TheGameShowBC and hashtag #TheGameShow. And of course, be sure to tune in next time for another exciting episode of The Talk Show, all about the world of television game and competition shows, The Game Show. I'm Bradley Clarke, the Bradster, saying thank you to all my hosting heroes for inspiring me since I was a kid, and a big thanks to everyone listening today. I hope you had as much fun as I had and learned something along the way as well. Bye for now.
This edition of The Game Show was created and produced by Bradley Clarke. This is Austin Angelo speaking.
The Game Show is a Bradley Clarke production. Get your game on.